sent to you by Jim,
Yeah.
then that's the one.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I sent Jim the
That's the
final version. That's
Great.
the,
Then that's
plan.
That's the one I read. Thank you. Yep. Yes.
That's me, Jim. So you might want to make me a co-host.
Yeah, that's why did you use okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, he graduated with my daughter. But one of them probably graduated with Emily too, but they have 7 kids. Well, thank you. Technology even.
Just need like a pocket protector and a little.
I'll try on that. It's nice because our next selectman will be AI, so,
Right. What could possibly go wrong?
yes. Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the minutes of the November 6th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Selectmen as amended here. Second that. The amendment is, the plastics program. Dean noted the plastics movie offered by the Sustainability Committee at the Gun Library was excellent. Jay Hubblebank thanked the committee members that organized the event, Julia Strait, Josiah Lee, and Michelle Gore. Jay also noted that this was the first of a number of events the committee is planning to educate the public about the dangers of plastics, the plastic and what they can do in their own homes to reduce the amount of plastic they use. Any other discussion?
Great, thank you.
All in favor? Appointments and resignations. I make a motion we appoint Paxton Barnes, full member of the Conservation Commission until 1/1/26.
Is that the right date?
Yes, because that's when the vacancy, that term is where the vacancy was.
Okay,
So,
so then in January, you're gonna do
We
it
have to
over again?
reappoint him.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I just,
yeah,
I'll second that.
thank
All in
you.
favor?
Aye.
The next two appointment, there's a lot of moving parts here that is confusing, and maybe it's just for me. My understanding was that the two incumbents in the alternate and the full position for the ZBA were not endorsed for those positions.
Yeah.
With the alternate member was endorsed as a full member, won the seat and resigned the following day. So we have 3 vacancies now. We've got 2 to be filled by Republican candidates and 1 to be filled by a Democratic candidate. Now, for our policy, the first thing we do is when we know there's a vacancy, we reach out to the leadership of the party that needs to be put in that seat and ask them for recommendations. So I reached out to Randy at the RTC. They provided 2 names, recommendations, and we have 2 individuals that are interested in that seat as well. So we've got 4 candidates. Randy, my point of confusion comes with, in your letter, you stated that if we endorsed Rebecca Perry for the full term, we would not object to her as an alternate. So
That means if we endorse her for a full term, if she wanted to be alternate, we wouldn't have an objection to that. We just didn't know, but all we were told was we were, there was the 2 positions historically, according to Bill Rosen, who was usually accepted by the board of selectmen. So we said, okay, she got all the people. We got we put up 2 people time. And area, so on.
right.
So unbeknownst that Rebecca or Sheldon fact, Todd tried to reach out to Wildwood to be fixed, so we had no problem with that. It was the idea that it was a surprise to us that anybody else was involved until we inquired. The point being that if we would have been approached as, we've got two people who want it, they were either sitting or they were sitting before, or whatever the circumstances were. So we don't go through the effort of doing that. The other thing, the point at the end is, on your ordinance, the way it's entitled, the way it reads, the different sections, you may want to, next time you do ordinances, sort of clarify where the pool of candidates for a full term can come from. Because according to the ordinance, at the very least, zoning, you can't just pull people out of the sky and fill a full term. You have to draw from the alternates.
For the zoning.
So,
But you had also stated that Todd Peterson had been trying to contact Mr. Wildman to be our candidate.
that was when Todd was trying to reach out to him. He was to be one of the people we were gonna endorse, come up with the names. One of the two names, Ariel Salama and Todd. It would have been, if we were trying to reach him to be one of the two people we were going to suggest.
Okay, so, I mean, here's
As a practical matter.
where I come from, Randy. Here's where I come from. I'll let you speak.
Sure, absolutely.
Here's where I come from is, you had two incumbents that were elected and re-elected, right? That both wanted to serve in their seats. And it's okay that they didn't communicate that to the RTC. The RTC is not mine views. My question is, does the RTC still support them?
Yes.
You do. So you're okay with,
We're okay with the people you picked at the selectmen, just the one that kind of been taken care of.
well, nobody knew that they, until, now, Rebecca, excuse me, hold on, I'll let you speak. Rebecca came to me and said she went and spoke to you and said, told you she did not want to be a full-time member. Okay, so anyway,
I think some people go through people.
but the bottom line is the RTC is okay with the two incumbents, there were no seats.
Yes.
Thank you. So my motion is to appoint of a full member of the zoning board of appeals until 11/29, Philip Chip Wildman. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? And I'll make the motion, we appoint an alternate on the zoning board of appeals until 11/29, Rebecca Perry. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Before I forget, Randy, it came to my attention this morning, there's another vacancy on zoning. It's a Republican vacancy.
Oh,
I didn't know.
I didn't notice, I don't know.
So-
Speak to it.
We won't do anything for another 2 weeks at least, if you wanna, okay?
Is that a full position or a part?
No, it's an alternate,
Alternate.
and I don't know why it happened. It was Susan. I don't know.
We concentrated on what, I got this thing, it was like, here, guess what? Nobody wants to do this, you're chairman, so I've got the one job that nobody can fire me from, because nobody wants it. But,
I'll take one of those.
what happened was, because the time limits that we had to get candidates,
Sure.
we concentrated on board of finance.
Yeah.
And we didn't fill all the positions. The Democrats, for some reason, left some space to school. So,
There's rules all over. And she usually comes on, so I don't know if you want to contact Susan. I had no idea until this morning that was vacant. Susan Smith,
She was the position.
she was the alternate.
I'll,
We're not gonna do anything.
I'll-
Yeah, we're not gonna do anything tonight. Two weeks at least. Sure. No problem. I just got a couple of things. Wait, I'm sorry, I don't wanna.
I'm good.
On the first selectmen's report, I want to mention our officer, Rich Anino, I just found this out this morning, was given a unit citation award by the Department of Emergency and Public Protection for his actions relative to the Woodbury police officer, Officer Wright, when he was wounded in a traffic stop. And then he was also given from the Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection a medal for outstanding service, all tied to December last year. We had a car stolen from Titus Park, and the chase ensued, and it was really crazy. But not only his actions apprehending the suspect, but his follow-up investigation and communication with other municipalities increased the list of charges tenfold on this individual and reopened theft and burglary cases all over the state.
Wow.
So I wanted to recognize,
Well, thank you.
Rich for that. He's amazing. In addition to everything else he does,
Been a great officer.
he's incredible. I had an outreach today from a resident. The Riverwalk Pavilion is not closed, but there's no winter maintenance. There's no winter maintenance over there, and without talking to Kevin, I can only assume, but just a huge amount of upkeep it would take, not only to clear the parking lot, the gravel parking lot, but the trail itself. He inquired if we could look into keeping that open, so I said, I'll talk to the Board of Selectmen, I'm gonna talk to Kevin tomorrow and see what might be involved in that.
So if you have a tractor, you can run through.
So it's a nice idea, get a lot of use of it. I mean, if it's feasible.
Yeah.
Do we get winter use?
Yeah,
Yeah. I think it gets a lot of winter use without it.
It's a good point. We could do
it is, the only thing I can think of is with the amount of resources we have, when that's gonna be jammed up with snow, our roads are too.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll talk to Kevin.
To Michelle's point, you can walk in, so.
Yeah.
And for all that we usually get, it's not a problem.
Our ambulance bonds, we had the bid yesterday, came in at under 3%, which we were very happy with, which we just at almost 3.5. I think I saw on here, Andrew Karen. Andrew actually predicted that.
All right.
And the River Road Bridge, so we met with engineers again to talk about how this is all gonna unfold. We're gonna post weight limits and close the bridge to alternating one-way traffic. I reached out to the businesses, I reached out to Brian. I get to find Teddy at the pizza place. It's probably gonna be the biggest impact for him, not for customers, but for deliveries.
I gave him a little heads up.
Did you? Okay.
Aware. You have a final number on that bond? Can you,
In terms of,
can we, what roundabout is?
And we
We
went
didn't have a final amount. did we?
yeah, we went down, when we went to the town last year, we were looking for 5.740. We came down to, we narrowed it down to 5.5 because we were doing some value engineering, going through this whole process of building the building. We've probably got another $100,000 worth of savings coming back from the construction. And then we got a premium of almost 400,000, just under 400,000. So
Premium.
it's all part of the bond, how the bond works, and I have to let Andrew speak to it if he's right, but, so anyway, it's less than what we.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we expected, we did 15 years, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so we talked about 20 or 15, right? With what we already have in the budget, this shouldn't affect it. But this was at 3.25%, what we originally thought it was. So we really, by going down to less than 3%, it shouldn't be, really have no impact on our budget next year. So that's great stuff.
Leslie, go ahead on mute. Leslie? Fire apparatus. So the next one on our list is 2029 for the ladder problem. That's the most expensive thing.
Mute me. There. We can't understand anything, Jim. Is there any way to clear the audio? Everything is mumbled.
No, I'm sorry, Leslie. I just looked at we're on the echo.
Is that a problem for the others on listening?
The audio
others
is
are-
better. It's better now.
Okay, thank you.
This year, so he's keeping them,
20
he seems to understand the task.
2029.
Yeah.
But now heard from the professionals that to build those apparatus is a 4-year. Right.
Oh my God. There's a fixed price when you put it in, do you get a fixed price on that?
You do not. You don't, and the fire department now
I mean, that price,
rapidly get a building committee, a truck committee together, start this thing, it's a mess, so anyway.
I mean, that
Yeah.
price doubled from 3 years ago. I
Mhm.
forget what we were budgeted for in that, in our
We were at $1
savings.
million, nine
It's
hundred,
always been 2 years out. When did it go to 4 years out?
this
I
is
mean,
recent, you heard it.
I
for
think we
Cal's,
have
right?
$2 million in that budget for that truck now. It was
Yeah.
like $1 million or $1.2 million a while back.
Yeah.
And we've been trying to put money, we have some significant money in there, but
Yeah.
it's not gonna cover $4 million or whatever the heck it's gonna be now. My goodness.
That's the end of my report, selectmen's reports.
Oh, that's enough.
Yeah, I really have nothing. There'll be news from Housatonic Valley Health in due time with that lawsuit is finally winding down. We
Okay.
have, we've potentially made another offer, but there's a slap motion. It looks like it's gonna get resolved one way or another within the next 6 months. So that's about it there. And not much on the lake until we have a meeting and we find out new stuff this spring.
He's got her.
Jay?
I'll just wait till the ordinance
Okay,
discussion there, which is next anyway.
go ahead, Jay.
All right, so I've been reporting here for a while that when Sheila was with us and Mandy from the Selectmen's office, we've been working on trying to get the ordinances in some order so that we can put them online in a searchable database like we've done with the zoning regs and the inland wetlands regs. It's been quite a ordeal, I guess. I sent to you guys a memo about 4 items that we're recommending we delete, 4 ordinances that we delete, and another, I think it was 5 that need revision. I think you have the packets of what they are. I'll just go over. We have an ordinance from 1930 about social security. What we're supposed to do with social security, none of it applies anymore. And since there are state and federal laws and regulations that apply to that, we really don't, the ordinance is out of date. We don't really need the ordinance because state and federal law is what applies to us. We had 2 invoices. Another one was 1926 and another one was in 1930, and about how to submit invoices and how to itemize invoices. Again, those were back in the time when really didn't have standard accounting principles. We currently, in talking with Linda Gomez, our finance director, we currently have developed a policies and procedures manual that, in working with our auditor, that really describes what we do, and that's what we've been doing. So those 2 are really no longer necessary because, again, they're out of date, and we've developed a system and a manual ourselves, and we update that with the auditor every year. So we're recommending those be deleted. We also have one that was on sewage, interestingly enough, and did you know that we were the sewage commission or something? Again, since that, I don't have the date in front of me when that was originally put in place, but it really falls now to our zoning regulations and our building inspection and how those are done. So again, this one was out of date and really doesn't apply to us anymore, and we have other regulations in place that really cover that. So those are the 4 that we were recommending be deleted. I'll just go over, and all of these will be online, by the way, if people want to look at them and see, there'll be a list of what they are and the backup information, so you can look at the old one and now in these revisions. We're recommending we change the annual town meeting from 7:30 to 7 o'clock. Seems most people would rather do that. That's only twice a year. Twice a year.
May and October.
And there's a sidewalk ordinance that we have that was very out of date, and Peter has gone through that and made the appropriate changes in that. We have a number under the section elected and appointed officials. Currently, our ordinance is one that combines the conservation and the inland wetland commission. Since we did to split those apart, but the ordinance still talked about under one heading the duties of each. So we're basically recommending that that ordinance be split into 2, so it's clear about what the Conservation Commission does versus what the Inland Wetlands Commission does. They were one at a time, at one commission at one time. We have two ordinances related to the fire department. One is called the fire chief. Again, this was originally approved in 1930. And it is out of date with what we currently do. So there is an updated version, and Jim was helpful in getting that together, along with one called the Board of Fire Commissioners. Which it turns out we are that also, by the way. And we already are doing what this says, but not what the ordinance says, but what we've been doing in our practices. So there's an updated version of that is also available for you to look at. And then the transfer station, there are 3 different sections in the transfer station that specify what can and cannot be brought to the transfer station. I mean, they're all out of date. And so what we recommend, what the group has recommended is that we give authority to the Board of Selectmen to identify what's can be recycled, what can be put in material solid waste. Because otherwise we'll be changing this ordinance every other week, because as the state changes rules, the sustainability committee looks for new ways to recycle. It just is gonna be regularly out of date. The reason there's 3, there's one for commercial haulers, which right now I don't think we have any anyway. One for recyclables and one for material solid waste or garbage, as we all know that. So our recommendation to streamline this is to move that, give the board the authority, and of course, we would then post it on our website, so it's up to date, and people up at the transfer station would have the up-to-date versions on a regular basis.
Jay, we're not advocating removing that portion that prohibits commercial.
No, the rest of the ordinance stays as is. It's just those 3 sections that list, here's what you can do here, and it's clearly out of date if you read any of them. They're all pretty much the same, but they're all out of date. And again, things change so much with what we're trying to do nowadays that it just seems like it makes more practical sense to, it seems kind of silly to go to a town meeting to change whether you can drop off tires or not, whatever the changes are. At least that's my feeling. Last
Do we
one,
want a recommendation on that ordinance?
Well,
From any committee, so that one specifically
well, that,
present to the Board of Selectmen, and they could then
yeah,
vote on it. In other words, I wouldn't want the Board of Selectmen deciding necessarily without
Right.
talking to.
it would mostly probably be the
sustainability.
sustainability committee
Right,
through
so-
the plan, with
Can
that.
we add
So,
that to it, that based on a recommendation from
Sure.
sustainability?
Yeah, that's great, no problem. How about a board appointed so if this, now we can do this, I'm just thinking, one of my thoughts in reading all of these is try to make them a lot simpler, where they're listing all this stuff. Instead just say, apply to do the state statute, instead of having, so I was just thinking if we just said, Board of Selectmen shall appoint a commission or committee to make recommendations rather than specify a committee. That makes sense?
Either way.
All right,
either way,
we'll look
just
at
thinking.
that, yeah. And the last one is, we have a section of the ordinance called Rules of Construction. I first looked at that and I thought, oh, we got a whole list of ordinances on how you build a house or something. Well, that's not the case. It's actually about how do you, the definitions and explanations of ordinances. How do you, so we're asking that the title be changed to the definition and explanation of ordinances. And this gives you information about how an ordinance gets approved and all of the definitions involved. So that's the only change there, but we also want to add, there's about 2 pages of definitions in that listing, talking about the various state statutes and what the board, how they get developed and how they get revised. We're recommending that there also be 4 additional definitions added, and that was after reviewing these ordinances. One is explaining what the difference is between an ordinance and a regulation. One is describing the difference between a board and a commission, which there really is none. There is one subtle difference there, and that's that a board has the authority to go to court if there's a question about that, which would be the Board of Selectmen. And lastly, what is a temporary committee and what is a standing committee, and how they are appointed. So those are 4 definitions that we're asking to be added to the list of definitions already in there. And again, those are on the letter they're all listed in the stuff I sent you. It won't be online for anybody to take a look at. So in our process, the idea is for us to approve or disapprove of any of these, and they would then go whatever's approved would then go to a town meeting at some later date. I know holidays are coming up and all that, but at some point we will put this on, so. I know you guys had a chance to look at these before, so I'll, if you're comfortable, I'd make a motion that we approve this, this list. Unless you're not,
I'll second it.
Weeks,
we can do
would
that.
mind, just so I can dig. a
Yeah,
little
sure,
bit.
I thought you had,
I did go over them, but I'd like to really,
no problem, that's great.
you and I might, we'd have a Q and A kind of.
Yeah, sure, anytime, any questions you have, let me know.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks for doing that,
Thanks.
Jay.
Yeah.
and our next step will be, we also found, I think there's 25, the last time we updated a book of, the book we have on ordinances was 2012. We have at least 25 more ordinances that we've approved since that time that are not, they're all, we have them all. It took a while to find them all, because we approved a lot of them, but they weren't attached to the minutes of the meetings of the town when we approved them. So we took a while, but, and now Millie has been working with us and she's been great in finding that stuff. And part of what we're doing also is reclassifying them into appropriate groups. So before you'd look at like rules of construction and think there's gonna be certain, and other, so we're trying to classify them under what's appropriate, and what will be easier to find, and then again, to put them in a searchable database. So,
Thanks, Jay.
all right, that's what we're doing.
Next on the agenda, we have Wayne Highland. Wayne is our planning commission chairman, and I believe, well, he's tasked with the VOCD, which is every 10 years, Wayne. And you were there the last time it was done.
He wrote the letter.
Okay, I didn't want to.
This is not my first rodeo.
Okay. So, Wayne, thank you to you and your commission. We know it's a heavy lift and it's a lot of work, and it's great stuff.
And if we have any say, you'll be here for the third one.
We'll double your pay.
Yeah, right, yeah, that's right, I want to raise, yeah.
And you can share the screen, I think.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't need that right away, but thanks, I'll pull it up when we get to the break. I imagine there'll be some Q and A here, so, first, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
It is my pleasure to present you guys with the final update of the town of Washington's plan of conservation and development. I know you've had a few weeks to take a look at it. I thought I'd just take a minute or two here and just kind of describe for you in, Reader's Digest version, the process that, the planning commissioners went through, and again, they, they're all great people. They all did yeoman's work and they all did it for free. We started this process a few years ago. The first thing we needed to determine was what kind of lift we wanted to do. I mean, you basically, when you're doing a P O C D, you have two options. You can either update an existing plan, or you can do what we call a rewrite, which is you start with a blank sheet of paper. Okay, what we first did is we reached out to different boards and commissions and different community groups and community leaders, wherever, and just kind of in general terms, asked them what they thought about the existing plan and whether they thought it was serving the town well, what they liked, what they didn't like, whatever. We quickly determined that it was most appropriate to do an update. Because in general, people were pretty pleased with the 2014 plan. They thought that it served the town well. We got the big things right. There were some things we didn't get right. I mean, 10-year plan, nobody bats 1,000, so. So once we determined that we were gonna do an update, we decided to do it ourselves. We thought, the town has had a mixed record with using paid consultants on this process, and we thought, since it wasn't a rewrite, we would and since some of us were present at the last time, we had some institutional memory, and we thought we would just save the town a boatload of cash and just do it ourselves.
Thank you.
So then, once we decided that, what we did is we just took a look at not only the last plan, but some of you may remember, we actually did a 5-year kind of report card at like around 2019 or so. That's like, and we took a look at our notes and everything from that as well. And we said, okay, let's take a look at how we did here. What did we, what did we go right? And then at a certain point, we went through all the goals and strategies of the last plan. And every month we did a project that we kind of nicknamed, red light, green light. And we literally went through, sometimes line by line, we said, okay.
Yeah.
Well, how did we do with it? It's like, we did this, okay, achieved, green light, it's like, no, didn't do it at all, red light, and then yellow light, of course, was, well, we made some progress, we did some things, and maybe we'll carry it forward. And then once we went, and we did it chapter by chapter, and some, like I said, sometimes line by line. And then we looked at them and said, okay, well, we don't have to worry about the stuff that got the green light, because it's done. The stuff that was the red light, we had to evaluate more. Well, did it not get done because we changed our mind? And what we thought was a good idea is now not really relevant, or was it, we dropped the ball? Yeah, and again, so we had to go through that. After that, we started actually crafting the update by pulling some things forward from 2014, adding some new things, new opportunities and threats that we saw for the town, and challenges that we might face going forward 10 years. And at that point, we continued to reach out to different folks in town, whether in business community. And one of our most informative meetings is we sat down with the leaders of the schools in town, or as we affectionately like to call them, the planning commission, the heads of the 5 families. And had a very interesting discussion with them, which actually informed a lot of our decision-making in terms of what to put forth in this update. We then reached out to the community. We held a series of 4 public forums. And of course, every month, and at every planning commission meeting, this was on the agenda. We were talking about things like we do them on Zoom. Anybody who showed up, we would allow them to speak and just give us our 2 cents. And a lot of what people put forward ended up in the plan. As well as people on Zoom and whatever. Once we got near the finish line, we sent it out to the Council of Governments, which is required by the statute. The Northwest Hills COG has to get a referral and weigh in on it. And they did, and their comments are so short that I can just read it to you. Okay, it said, the Northwest Hills COG staff has reviewed the proposed plan and offers the following for consideration by the commission. In accordance with statute 8-23, staff of the Northwest Hills Council of Governments finds no apparent conflicts with regional plans or policies or concerns of adjacent towns. This is an excellent POCD that addresses all requirements of Connecticut General Statute 8-23. Congratulations, great work.
All right.
That was it.
That's
We
great.
have, to put that in context, the last go around, we got 3 pages of comments.
Whoa.
So,
That's great.
Wait, I'm gonna
So-
work for 1 second. Do you feel like you need to go, Sandy? Okay, if there's no form, if you don't have a form, just come and get me. You would.
There's another meeting upstairs.
Oh, okay, sorry.
That's-
No problem. Subsequent to that review from the COG, we noticed a public hearing, which we held a few weeks ago. We even got a few comments from there, which we were able to debate, and added some of them to the plan that you were given 2 weeks ago. And and now we are at this point where the step in the process where I officially present the plan to the Board of Selectmen. And it's my hope afterwards that you will vote to accept the POCD. And just so you know, I mean, sometimes there's some confusion about this. The Board of Selectmen doesn't approve the plan. You guys accept the plan. We, the planning commission, approve the plan.
So what I'm not that I anticipate this, I'm just curious, what happens if we don't if the board doesn't accept the plan?
Then we would go back to the drawing board
Okay.
and
So it has to,
and craft something that
eventually
you
we
would,
have
that you
to
would
accept
accept.
it, and then you have to, got it.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm just curious.
In other words,
That's
we
fine.
can't approve it until you accept it.
Gotcha.
That's
Okay.
how
Okay.
it's It's,
I get it.
referral from the COG, public hearing, acceptance by the selectmen, final approval by the planning commission.
Okay, thank
There
you.
won't be a sheriff at my door.
There won't be a sheriff, so you didn't know, yeah. It's like,
Not on this.
if only. Okay, so that's basically the process that
Right.
that we have gone through over the past several years. And so at this point, I would entertain any questions or comments that you have, and I can share a screen and put it up on, I can put the plan up, so if people want to follow along, if you have specific issues or.
I need to go through it more thoroughly. I hate to do this, but I'd like to have you back.
Yeah, I do as well. I actually thought we were gonna spend some time going through it, but that probably is a little arduous for this.
That's
forum.
fine.
Yeah,
But I would make the motion that we accept the P O C D as presented by the chairman of the planning commission.
what do you wanna wait till we go through it? I mean, I'm happy with that too. I know we're gonna
Yeah,
accept
we
it, but
could, I have 100% faith, but
well, I do
I
as
think
well.
we should,
The process probably would be to,
sure,
yeah,
Sure.
wait.
we'll leave that for our next one, if that's okay with you, Wayne.
You can do whatever, I serve at the pleasure of the selectmen, so
Thank you.
it's.
don't go back to committee and start redoing it though. So,
You got-
yeah.
Don't worry about that. It's like,
So the one thing, I had some time today, so I reviewed it again.
sure,
And the one thing, and it stands out in the last one too, is the housing crisis,
Right.
as I think it is. And you guys addressed that as the first item in the plan, if I remember correctly.
yes,
That
was not an accident.
yeah, I assume so, because I know, I've heard you talk many times in the demographics of the town and what's going on with the schools needing people who can, and businesses would like people who live in town to be able to work in town and
Workforce.
live in town.
Yeah.
I guess there, I'm glad you did that, I guess is what I'm thinking about to begin with, because I've thought for years. What do we do about it? And I still don't come up with a great, and I know the housing commission, and I know we've talked, putting more money into that fund. I can't think of anything else but short of us buying land and building houses ourselves. I don't know what, because no land is gonna come out there, somebody's gonna buy it and build a gigantic house on it.
There,
So I'm just curious about your thoughts about that.
we tend to conflate affordable housing. The affordable housing problem with the housing, we have an affordable housing problem, but more importantly, we have a housing problem. Okay, and people get focused on the affordable housing component of it. It's an important component, but it is just one component. I mean, and when it comes, and we like to make sometimes we make the distinction between capital A affordable housing and small a affordable housing. What I mean by that is capital A affordable housing is what the housing trust deals with Habitat, the Housing Commission, 8-30G, CHAFA,
Yeah.
the down payment assistance program that we have. It's like,
Right.
that the whole alphabet soup of blah, blah, blah from the state and
Right.
whatever with deed restrictions and all of that. We have tools in the box to deal with that problem. Now, like the things I just listed, we have the housing, we have dedicated people, volunteers in town who work on this all the time. They do good work.
See,
But that's only one part of the problem. And the best way I can I have actually a colleague, a friend of mine, actually, who's a selectman in Salisbury. I don't know if you know Kitty Kiefer or not. Anyway, she described, she has the greatest analogy. That's why I want to give her credit. It's like, if you only deal with the capital A affordable housing problem and you leave everything else alone, you end up with a town that has what she calls barbell housing. Okay, and what I mean by that is that you end up creating a tranche of housing that's officially affordable and complies with all the alphabet soup and, and serves a vital need. But unless you make less than $80,000 a year, it doesn't help you. Okay, and then we have the other tranche of housing that is being built here. I mean, houses do get built in a while.
oh, yeah,
Over at this end, which is basically mega mansions on huge pieces of land. And, and you need like a family income of $500,000 to afford those houses. And so over time, you get a tranche of this and you get a tranche of that, and you get nothing built in between, thus the barbell. Okay, that is really the problem that we are not addressing.
So when,
We're not addressing it at all.
so when I look at this, then Wayne, just point out where you think in the I mean, I saw you talk about village boundaries and you know, a number of mentions about zoning laws that need to be changed. But you're not just talking about them at capital A affordable housing.
No, look, we have an affordable housing plan, which we adopted
Right,
entire, and that
right.
addresses largely capital A affordable housing.
So do you have, I apologize for not seeing the difference there, but do you have recommendations about the small a
Yes,
in here,
it's the very first one.
which is,
It's the very first one. The town shall, change its regulations and allow smaller conforming lots.
all right. I was directing that at thinking, and maybe that needs to be, maybe it's just my reading, because I'm so focused on hearing about affordable A housing that I'm not thinking about the middle group there.
Right.
But is that something the way it's, and I'd go back and read this, but is there something to make sure that we see that the plan talks, and maybe it does already, and I just wasn't reading close enough, that clarifies between the two of those?
Well,
So that we can, because that's important, and it's really important. And I get
there
that.
is some, if you go to the affordable housing plan, which is a separate document that we did back in 22.
Right,
There is some mention of that in there, and it delineates a bit, but that's why we added this, especially this first stretch. I mean, and I think that I don't have it up, but the way I describe it, I think, is that we have a housing mismatch.
yes.
And
yes,
we've
you
had
did.
a housing mismatch for
Right.
decades.
Right.
It's like, and we've had successive plans we've had successive POCDs that have identified two cohorts that need housing options.
Right.
Young people trying to buy in, older people trying to buy down.
Right, and
The average home being built in Washington today is a gargantuan structure on a gargantuan piece of land. The young people can't afford it, the old people don't want it.
no, I don't mean to take up the meeting with this,
No.
because it's something I should come to the housing commission is mostly focused on the capital A.
Yes.
But it seems like if there's a piece of property comes available, whether it's a house or a piece, somebody with money buys it and builds a bigger structure. You can't, we know that there's houses that have been little a affordable that are bought and then torn down and built. How do you prevent that? Because that's because people are gonna build these medium-sized houses. Maybe if we had better.
At the end, again, we go to the goal, the very first one. Washington shall, right, adopt regulations that allow for smaller conforming lots. Conforming lots, as in, so that they're as of right use in specified locations. Now, the zoning commission, that's kind of their job to figure out what we haven't, of course, we have opinions in planning about what those specified locations should be. But ultimately zoning will decide that. But look, it all boils down to land.
Right.
Okay, and I'm just gonna say this, and it may upset people, but it's the truth. Okay, we have been engaged in exclusionary land use practices here for decades.
Well, it's part of,
And we've gotten really good at it. Okay,
Every home
and that's
that
what
is
you did.
currently meets that middle A is on a non-conforming lot. Every single one, mine included, I'm sure yours,
Mine.
anything on a 1 acre lot that people could buy is non-conforming. What Wayne's plan is saying is zoning needs to make regulations to allow for more of those to be built.
So let me ask this, then, if we look at these recommendations and we like them to enact those, there's lots of changes that have to happen.
Right.
It's us accepting this plan doesn't really, the next steps are.
It doesn't change the fact that.
Far more arduous in a way.
Yeah, it
Right,
doesn't change the
that's
fact
why
that
we changed those regulations in 20 years.
So are we, steadily, I know we've talked about this a lot, asking commissions to be looking at the P O C D and that's really who has to get on board, every individual one down, right, that.
We've had that,
Where
yeah.
the changes have to come from.
And we've had that issue for years, and forget, we had a chart the last time this was put together. And, there's some of this in the back that you have, we had that laid out and every commission got a letter about what they were supposed to do. I think we
Right.
did that during the 5 years ago.
We did.
And we did
And,
survey
but we
that.
have no authority that I know of, to say to that. And I'm not picking on the zoning commission, but most of the things relate to the zoning commission to do the things you're talking about.
It basically all relates to zoning.
Yeah, to tell them to change that. I mean, there's no,
Maybe this is, we've already answered this, and it is the obvious answer. What did you see as really stood out to you? You said there were several things. One, it was adopted, done, green light. What were the yellows and red lights that you went, wow, we really did drop the ball on that one between the two? Was this it? Or were
This and other things, but this was the big one. We've been calling, it's like, look,
yeah,
the smaller lots lead to smaller houses, which
right,
will be more affordable, not because of some alphabet soup in Hartford, but because they're smaller.
right.
Okay, and it's like,
Right.
now, will that totally fix the problem? No, but it'll make the problem better.
Right.
It'll shrink that distance between the two balls on the barbell. Okay,
Right.
you'll get that, you'll never get them to meet, let's be realistic. I
Yeah.
mean, but you can get them closer. Right now, they're growing farther apart.
Right.
And I don't wanna see our town become a place where, it's like, look, we have an affordable housing plan in place already. I'm sure you guys have all seen it, because we did it a few
Read
years
it,
back.
approved it.
One of the thing it calls for the creation of 30 of capital A affordable units over a 5-year period,
Right,
okay? So let's just say that by 2027, we get there. Let's just
yeah,
have a thought.
Yeah.
A thought bubble here, okay?
Yeah.
Let's say we get there and we write our next 5-year one and we re-up. So at the end of a decade, we'll have 60 capital A affordable units over here. Now, market forces in town, just the fact of living here in town, about 6 houses a year get built in Washington right now. It used to be higher before the
Right.
financial meltdown, but it's roughly about half a dozen a year. So if we leave things as they are, over time, we're gonna create about 60 new houses in Washington over here at that other end. So what do we have, if we don't do anything, what do we have at the end of the decade? We've got 60 capital A units over here, we've got 60 mega mansions over here, and we've built nothing in between.
yeah,
We will be exacerbating inequality in the town. You create a scenario where you have a have not
I think
community. That's not only a poor plan, that's the absence of a plan.
planning's job was to create this document. Our job is to
and I
implement.
think that's
And
what,
I think we have to, the back and forth isn't necessarily with planning, it's gonna be with
No.
zoning. And I think that's where our focus has to be, because I think that's the top priority.
I do agree, and
At
it's,
what point does this kind of all go, again, I'm sorry to make this so general, does this kind of go?
We do this all the time, you're not,
Go to the electorate and the town, because there are big thoughts here that not everybody is gonna agree with.
well,
But the statutes guide, Dean, how zoning can operate, and we can't just circumvent them with a town meeting.
Well, I agree with that, I understand that, all I'm getting at is, the big picture, to answer. I think we all probably are in some sort of general agreement that there is this problem in the middle. But not everybody feels the same way about solutions, or that is a problem.
Right. That's
Well-
why I think that's the discussion the board of selectmen needs to have with the zoning.
right, now
Right.
the advantage of.
Right.
Now, of course, the dilemma of capital A affordable housing. Is in a word, money.
right,
It's like, because it involves subsidy and some entity has to subsidize that, that
Right.
housing. Somebody has to make up the difference between what that housing costs and what the people whom you're trying to help can afford.
Yeah.
And in a town like Washington, that subsidy is at least $200,000 per housing unit. That's whether it's a single family home, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a condo, whatever.
right,
And with the tariff structure, it's probably even more right now, because the two biggest components in building anything are lumber, which we get from Canada, and gypsum, which we get from Mexico. So that 200,000 figure is probably low right now, but I'll just leave that.
right,
The problem here is this, with and I'm talking about capital A housing right now. We have a goal of building 30 every 5 years, that's 6 a year. Okay, if we can even get the state money through grants and whatever. The state spends quite a bit of money on affordable housing, actually. They kind of get a bad rap. They actually spend quite a bit. The problem is they spend over 3/4 of it on subsidy. Vouchers, rental assistance, whatever. They spend less than 1/4 of it on actually creating new housing units. And our pro rata share of that pie is about $200,000 a year.
Yeah.
Or if we can even get it, which is enough to fund one unit. So we're, in terms of subsidy, we're 5 short. So we need someone here to write a check for $1 million year on year.
I don't think there's any debate in any of this.
Yeah,
We all,
it's not gonna happen.
you need to go to zoning and take that plan and implement it. I don't wanna debate.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
No, I think, I don't, you know, I agree with that,
Yeah.
and we talked about it the last time and the last time
Yeah,
before. And I don't wanna belabor this, I guess it's just, the language in here makes it different, makes a difference for me anyway, that we make sure that we articulate that A and big A and little a in there, so that's all I was trying to.
Oh, and I think that's clear in there. and that we take
Yeah, now
that-
the advantage of the
that to
little
zoning.
a is that it doesn't require money.
Right,
Doesn't require money.
Right.
It requires us, well, first of all, you can't use the state money
right,
for the little a,
anyway,
yeah, you
right,
can't use it
right,
anyway. It's
right, but
it,
it's,
it requires us. The good
Right.
news is that we're in control.
Yeah.
And the good news is that it doesn't require money, but the bad news is that we're in control and
Right.
it
Right.
doesn't require money. It's like we
yeah.
have to have the, we have to have the will
yeah,
to
make
make this,
this change.
to make this happen now, and it won't happen right away. I mean, it'll take years. I mean, we got into this mess over decades. We're not gonna
Right.
get out of it in 6
Right.
months. It's like, you have to change, you know. There will no doubt be people who say, oh, if you change the rules and if you allow small lots somewhere in town, it's gonna be terrible, and, you know, evil rapacious developers are gonna swoop in here like the Oklahoma land rush, and they're gonna carve up the town and pave it,
Yeah.
and you know, we've heard these things. But I would say a couple things to that. One, with the entire town's on septic and well,
Yeah,
so the town can only get so dense. Okay, it's, you know, and, you know, and you can't build a Section 8 tower or a big box retailer on a septic tank. No health department would ever approve it, right? It never even gets to a land use commission. So those fears are just unfounded.
Right.
They just, it won't
Right.
happen. But it's difficult to, one, decide to do it, and two, to decide where.
yeah,
You know, because this is kind of one of those classic, you know, whose ox is getting bored.
right,
And in fact, which is also kind of a specious argument, because those who all of a sudden find their land capable of being subdivided into smaller lots, well, arguably you can say that their land just increased in value. It didn't decrease in value.
Guys, we're all on the same take. If
Yeah.
there was an argument, I'd say, let's continue this,
No,
but we're
no,
all
I
on the same
agree.
page.
I
We
get-
need to go to produce,
yeah,
zoning and back to planning and. But Wayne, thank you so much.
Yeah, this is great.
It's
Again,
Huge,
you guys-
thank you,
Okay,
you did
any
very
other?
nice.
appreciate it.
Great job,
Thank
Okay,
good job, thank you.
thank you
so
all.
much. Visitors, we'll start online.
Nobody's seen.
Linda?
I say thank you to Wayne.
Sure.
I think you.
And we were there, like, great, thing.
I'm aware that Steve Bronson actually felt it, but I was trying to bring to the table and say, let's talk about these little pieces that, you know, we're not connected to the bigger spots, or even people that have big properties that they just got 88 acres, whatever. Why not in the little corner someplace off of, you know, near the border, why don't we take that and make that? I'm not trying to
understand what-
say what it is, but isn't it time to come to the table with them and see if we can, at least.
We have.
Brian, do you want?
We have.
We are,
Yeah.
we are working with landowners on these things. When we acquire land, especially with public funding, we are not allowed to put building or structure on. We'll lose funding that way. And so what we do require in those funding mechanisms is public access, and that's really our trail system. We do have a very, we do have a strategic criteria plan for any kind of acquisitions. Most of the acquisitions we get now, we're getting solicited by home landowners and homeowners to put it into a conservation easement or a donation, or sometimes they put it into a legacy gift that we don't even know about until they pass away and the estate says, hey, the land's yours now. So, you know, we do have restrictions on what we can do with much of our land, but it's also trying to work with the landowners who want to donate the land and negotiating with them on what kind of uses are appropriate. We did have a very successful deal in the last couple of years where a portion of the land was put into an easement and a portion was worked with the Washington Housing Authority, and it's going to be used for affordable housing. And I really acknowledge the problem because I'm in the barbell. I am not on the ends. I'm in the barbell and I can't live in Washington because of that. So I'm totally sympathetic with the planning commission and what you're trying to do. And if there are properties that do not meet our criteria, the first thing we tell the landowners is, how about housing authority? Because we can work with the housing authority, maybe we can protect the land around it and use a building envelope to put some Habitat for Humanity or other type of or fair and equitable housing on it. So yeah, we're already at the table, we're just quiet about it. But we know how sensitive,
Appreciate that.
we know how sensitive.
About 3 or 4 years ago, we connected with Brian and Tom Rickard and the leadership but it is tricky because a lot of what they get to Brian's point about the grants, they're locked up. They are absolutely locked into what they do. I know what you're saying is we had a goal of X percentage of land conserved, and I believe we've reached that goal.
Yeah.
And now it works in direct conflict, if you will. You know, every acre that gets conserved again drives up the other acre for building a house. I get that, but.
But if we came together and saying that maybe the rest of the community, the town, would see the need more, I mean, like with Steve Ross, we've got all kinds of information out there and things that come through the mail that talk about it, so people know how well, you know, it's well-oiled machines would be. But I don't know if they really understand the housing situation. And maybe we need to put a little bit more advertisement into that, so those people that are wanting to donate their land to Steve Rock, maybe they'd say, I'd be willing to donate some to the town or to selling or what, you know, I'm just saying, I don't have the answer, I'm just saying, why can't we sit at the table and try to talk about some stuff, and maybe there'll be new things that will come up that we can.
Understood. John?
Yeah,
You're muted.
I'd like to thank Wayne as well for pinpointing the elephant in the room. This was a major topic every year about the school population in decline. Working class families cannot afford to move to buy $1 million house in any of the 3 towns. Things need to be done to make maybe more subdivisions. When we first moved here, we bought 1.25 acre piece of property and built our own house. We were working, basically middle-class people. So, yeah, this is definitely gonna help. Soil-based zoning needs to be looked at. You know, there are things that can be done for you know, middle-class families to move to this area. But right now, forget it. You know, no one's gonna be able to come up with the money to buy the McMansions that exist.
Thanks. Thank you, John.
Can I just, he brought up something, can I just address a couple things there? Soil-based zoning in and of itself is not necessarily the problem. The problem is the arbitrary values we place on our soil-based zoning. Soil-based zoning doesn't require us to have 200 feet of frontage to build a house. Or 2 acres of Class A soil. Those numbers are arbitrary at best and exclusionary at worst. I mean, you know, you talk to any engineer or realtor and they'll tell you, you have Class A soil, you can easily build a 3-bedroom house with 1,000-gallon septic on a property that's a half acre with 100 feet of frontage. We just arbitrarily don't allow that.
Those rules were set when had a different mindset back in those
Well,
days.
it's a panic.
We were
gonna be
afraid that
overrun
we're
with
gonna get
development.
overrun and
Well,
those in
that's,
place.
well,
Well,
soil-based zoning wasn't set up that way. In fact, the plan actually explains the,
Yeah.
the birth of soil-based zoning in town. And basically, back in the seventies, the state was considering making the Chippewa Valley a public water supply
Right.
watershed.
I saw you.
And at the time, Washington basically had 1 acre zoning. Okay, and the state said that is not gonna be sufficient to protect the watershed. You guys have to come up with something. The solution was soil-based zoning, which sets the density of a given parcel based on its ability to
Right.
support the proposed use, but what happens subsequent to that is we set these very, we basically large lot zoned with the town.
Right.
And not only did we, and so it has served the farmland and the forest land pretty well, actually. But it is slowly eroding the village centers because, as you know, the land around the villages is zoned precisely the same as the land out on the farmland and forest land. You create a disincentive to build anything near the villages. It's like, it's the entire, everything around the villages is already non-conforming. It's like,
There's no land.
Let me give Randy a chance.
Yeah, I just want, well, I'm gonna clarify something before, then I'm gonna do this couple items.
Mhm.
Thinking about, when you asked the question about Rebecca, I thought related to the appointment. Asked to be appointed, by the party or as a party that suggested by the board. I had a conversation with her before the election. And what she said was, something about, she thought she had signed on for alternate and asked me. I said, well, I saw it was reported, not what you signed, it was somebody hand wrote in there as your position at the address. And she asked me if she was running against anybody. I said, I didn't know, because that time I didn't have. But there wasn't, she may have viewed that as leading into the procedure that you use, but that was before the election. So, yeah, I did talk to her.
Well, that's fine.
The second thing on this development, I meet with roofers. Number of them are developers, one of these guys manages 6,000 units in the student housing. You mentioned Washington and you get a,
Right. You mean the economics forbid it.
Yeah, but it's not the economics, there's such as zoning related.
I think,
People saying that you're gonna take an extended. So they takes a lot of capital to do it. One of them's about 50 units in New Fairfield. He's just doing soil testing. And he said they're doing 50 miniature houses, tiny houses. And what they have to do, you have the road expense, which is very big development expense. However, he said the biggest difference between the tiny house development and let's say Danbury and Fairfield or wherever, and someplace like Bridgewater or whatever, is the land cost. If you have the land, that's the lumber's the same, the sheetrock's the same, they're little. You Washington take the step to fill the middle between the big A and the little A. The only way that I see it is gotta be private development.
Oh, yeah.
That gets encouraged by allowing smaller.
By the regulations.
Yeah,
right.
and
And
he mentioned, he's right, but he just basically said, too bad you get this on tape, you're done as far as lawsuits on arbitrary capricious for already telling them the keys or.
Well, then let them,
No, I'm not.
let them prove me wrong. That's
I'm just saying,
yeah.
that's why they're passed that bill, the last few days, which may affect a lot of this. Some of this stuff may be implemented by statute. The thing that I read in the Post article, which I handed you earlier, was interesting, was the fact that according to the New York Post, they believe that it mandated the sewer and water, being.
Component.
That's big money. When I was in law school, they talked about exclusionary zoning. And the way to fight the exclusionary zoning was always the health and welfare, the septic and the water. If you have city water and city sewer, you can put almost unlimited amount of units. So it's a balancing act, but it's really, the statute may gut a lot of what you try to do one way or the other. So They haven't got to the point where they're doing regulations yet off of that, but it looked pretty draconian as far as the potential. I know, you know.
Yeah,
they could-
I'll let you
Yeah,
finish.
but the potential as was described is an economic problem for small towns because the cost of the infrastructure.
Yeah,
So, I mean, this is.
yeah, I mean, basically, he's right, but it's not gonna affect us. Because you know, basically, if your town is less than 15,000 people, you're not gonna be subject to that, and it'll be a long time before Washington has 15,000 people. And, but he's right, though, it's like, you know, if you have even a rudimentary public water or sewer, or, you know, storm water management system in your municipality, you know, there is an inevitable stress on expanding it. You know, the people on the outer edge always wanna go in, it's like,
Sure.
you know, now
Look at water.
yeah, and it's like, so we don't. Obviously, you know, we don't have a public water or sewer system here. There are no plans to get one. There is no recommendation to get one. You know, I mean, God, years ago, I mean, I'm really digging back here, but I think it was the 1993 plan. Actually had a sewer avoidance policy. That was removed in the 2003 plan. And it's never, yeah,
So is the sewer commission now.
yeah, but I mean, of course, you know, we don't have a sewer promotion policy either, so. Yeah, we don't have that, no developer is going to take on the expense of building out a wastewater treatment facility. Although, but if there is one in place, they'll pay to hook up to one and they'll pay to expand it.
They do have centralized, and that one thing, they do have centralized water and sewer in that 50 units. And it's part of the water, I think, is regulated by.
It's not near here.
Let me
Yeah,
go back
we're
to-
getting out of our.
Let me go back to, is there anyone else online has a question or comment? John, you're muted. I didn't know if you wanted.
Looks like he's good.
I think you said, so. Okay. Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Live? Linda?
We have a list of things, but maybe we don't want to
Yeah.
deal with them tonight. One question to finish up with this. So how did the schools, the private schools, have all this stuff on small lands? And like,
They're all-
just looking at Bundy, all those houses that are those units, they just built it near the road,
They were all here long before any of that was applicable.
Oh, no, I'm the school, but I'm saying they are adding more buildings on that land that's there. How do they?
Well, if they add it onto the main campus, they meet all the regulations. If they buy, which they are doing, they're buying existing houses, that's perfectly legal.
Oh, yeah, that I wasn't talking
Yeah.
about. That was like.
If it's on their campus, they have to go through the land use regulations, just like everyone else.
Yeah.
So they
I
got-
was wondering about the one that's up near the road there, the new one at Rumsey. It's like really close to the
Mhm.
road and it's like brand new and they're building more there.
I can only assume it's all met. They have to go through the whole process, the land use process.
Well, I guess what I was talking about, the soil based thing. How do they put all these units?
Well, we're not the-
Well,
They talk to the zoning board. We're not the zone, they have,
Yeah.
they had to approve, the zoning had to approve it in order for it to get through.
Go ahead.
No.
Sure.
Transfer state. So, one of the things is the attorney, do you have a letter from our town attorney on that land, the purchase? Whether you've made an agreement or a draft or anything,
A letter from the attorney stating what,
on the purchase of that, any recommendations, any thoughts, any,
the attorney's thoughts?
yeah,
Yeah, so the attorney is working with the Ranieri's attorney
yeah.
to draw up an agreement, but there's not one done yet.
Right, so it's like he is on it and his opinion is it's fine for the town to
Mhm.
take on this, okay. Can it be subdivided, that piece of land?
It already is. You mean the portion we're gonna buy?
How big is the portion that we're gonna buy? How many?
Roughly, it's 4 acres on the landfill and another, I think it's between 6 and 7 acres.
So it's around 10 acres, total, maybe.
Mike, I don't think it's that much.
Yeah, I thought it was.
What's your question, Linda?
My question is, can can it be that the town just buys where the transfer station is and not the dump part?
No, we want the 4 acres for that, for solar array.
But, and how far have you looked into the solar, I mean, the stuff that I see with the solar panels has got to really,
We had, there's either 4 or 5 different companies come out, do a site visit, they evaluated it. They were separate companies, but there was
These are all-
4 or 5 of them.
All approved by, these are all state, that
Yeah.
have gotten qualified by
the-
the state to do
Those
this.
bids came back between, the town would realize between $60,000 and $80,000 a year of revenue.
at starting at one point, because everything I've read on solar, you don't really start to benefit until 10 years, almost. 10
No, see, we wouldn't own the panels. That's why if we own the panels, the amount would take longer, but be a lot more. So we thought the best idea, and again, it's in its infancy, the best idea was to not own the panels, not have the maintenance costs, not have to deal with any of that. That's all on the company that owns them.
And they're paying us to,
And in return, we get a lesser cut, 60 or 80,000.
So what happens though, if you still are working on the well stuff, right?
Yep,
And you haven't gotten anything,
we haven't gotten a test. They've taken a test, we haven't gotten the results back yet.
how long ago did they take the test?
2 weeks, 3 weeks.
No, a week ago.
No,
And you didn't have any done last year at all?
We haven't done any since 2012.
But I mean, since you had the idea to purchase it, because before, this is the first time, I think, in the history that I know of that there's been an interest in purchasing it.
no, we've had an interest in purchasing it, at least talked about it since I've been on the board in 2013.
What did you think?
Well, we talked about it. I don't know what was in the, but I know I remember talking with Mark about it and Dave about it. We didn't pursue it at the time, but every time the budget, probably during the budget time, because I would talk about we're paying to, rent that space, and I talked about buying that space. Maybe it was in the discussion in the budget meetings, but I know we talked about it there, but this opportunity, we pursued it more since Jim's been elected.
Is there, do you know why that it didn't go forward?
Mark and Dave didn't think it was a good idea at the time.
And did they say why they thought it wasn't a good idea?
It was 10, 12 years ago. I don't remember exactly what their rationale was, but they felt it was better to just keep renting. So
And how-
that's,
The liability of.
We've already talked about this. We have it, whether we own it
own it or
or not.
not, we're responsible.
Hey, hi, guys, it's Linda.
Hey, Linda.
Hi, my camera's not quite working, but anyway, I remember when Mark was still here, when the renewal of the lease came up, he approached the Ranieris to buy it then. There was talk about it buying then, but at that time, the Ranieris did not want to. They wanted to just renew a new lease.
I remember that now.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First Roger, then Sally, and then as
Yeah.
soon as both.
Exactly.
Thank you, Linda.
Thanks.
You're
Linda.
welcome.
So there's no good water test results yet.
Correct.
Of that. Is there going to be a town meeting of, not to vote on it, a town meeting to have people ask these questions and to get more of the answer
Correct.
before that even happens, before it goes into,
A vote. Correct.
so the vote would come after it, so we're not gonna get hit with all the stuff on one night and be, told we gotta vote on it. There's something that we can look into ourselves, research. I mean, I'd like to
That could
see.
be, Linda, yeah, could be.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Like to see that part, of that. I think that's the other issue with.
You asking if the portion we want to purchase can be subdivided?
Well, if we could just, with,
Or just buy, you want to know if we could just buy the transfer station?
yes,
Right.
and not the part that the dump was on.
Yeah, I don't,
So the solar
think the Ranieris
panels
would be
that you wanna do, what is that gonna benefit, who is that gonna benefit, the energy that comes with it?
I don't,
The energy's gonna go back to Eversource.
Pardon?
The energy goes back to Eversource.
Right.
We're gonna get checks from the company who's sending it back to Eversource of $60,000 to $80,000 a year for the use of our space and the amount of energy they generate back to Eversource. And all these solar systems that the towns have, Litchfield, whatever have, none of that gets put right into their electrical grid. It all goes back to Eversource, and then you get reimbursed, or you get discounts for it if you own it from Eversource, but it's not like they reduce your electric bill. You get paid for that, what you put back. It's not like if you have one at your house where you're covering your costs and then you pay for whatever you don't, whatever you don't cover. You're getting paid for it. The town's getting paid whatever our share of how much they send back to Eversource.
So do more trees have to be taken down?
Nope.
It's
Oh,
settled right there, but with that.
Well, that's,
right on the,
And what will be the life expectancy? You haven't picked the company yet.
no,
No,
we just had
20.
discussions with them to see
Yeah.
what,
and they're 20 years, but it's not our responsibility, it's theirs.
that's the
They own the
difference.
panels, we don't maintain them, we don't do anything.
And that's the difference. We could get more money, but we'd have to spend all that money up front. We don't put any money up front.
Are we
So
gonna-
rather than us spending any money up front and getting, say, I don't know what the number was, Jim, 50%?
They own them, we get the $60,000 to $80,000 a year and all the maintenance is on them.
Because obviously they're making more money, but it's not, we don't have to hire a company to maintain them. We don't have to hire goats to eat those grass growing. I mean, whatever they have to do to maintain them. We're not responsible for that.
Well, I know that there are solar companies that have come and gone, so, and then.
Well, these would be anybody approved by the state before,
Yeah.
we do our due diligence with any of these companies, of course. But we're not doing any work on it until we have the land. There's no point to it but we did know that it's feasible. That's what we wanted to be sure, that it was feasible.
So those people will come in for the town meeting too to speak.
No,
No,
this is about purchasing the transfer station.
I mean,
I
that's,
know, but if you're gonna put solar panels on there, there's still gonna be,
what,
people that are gonna ask.
We could do that before we bring the solar company in, but we're not gonna muddy it. The purchase of the transfer station will precede solar panels. We're not gonna entertain putting them up until we own it.
we go out to bid, it'd be part of our
But
budget, the whole
that's-
thing.
That's your intent, though, what I'm saying.
Well,
Your
that's our
intent.
hope, yeah.
Yeah, well, so,
So if we purchase the transfer station, before we put up solar panels, we'd have an informational meeting with the solar people.
Of course,
but is this, so. Is the town people voting on the solar panels up there, or?
not now, not on this. Our vote is
They
to
have no
buy,
say in it, the town would have no say in the solar panels going up there if you
Yes,
buy it.
it's a budget item, and yeah, sure.
Yeah, if there was,
Just
if
like-
there was an overwhelming response at an informational meeting, sure, we would take that into account.
Of course,
I just wanna make sure.
Yeah, I'd be curious as to why they might not want it,
but
but that's fine.
Fred,
but that's for another day, because we're not there yet.
The negative.
Yeah, and
side.
everybody's
There's
got-
a positive, there's also a negative side.
To everything,
Yep.
yeah, to everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Well, and that's what, so all I'm saying is if everything is laid out on the table and there's a vote, then it's like, you're not gonna hear anybody complaining about it afterwards because you put all the
Yes,
information
we
out
will.
there, pros and cons.
Yeah, people complain anyway. We're,
Yeah.
it needs a vote. that-
and it'll all be out there.
Yeah.
It'll all be out.
We'll make our,
Maybe be-
well, we're not
Yeah.
gonna go out there, Linda, and,
It'll be an
and,
informational meeting for the solar panels after we purchase. the
right,
transfer
but we're not
station.
gonna, you're asking to have somebody speak about solar panels at the decision to purchase the property. We're not gonna go out to bid. No solar company's gonna wanna come out here and say, yeah, without us formally going it through a bidding process to get the right, to look at somebody, so.
Well, they'll probably ask questions, there's a possibility they're gonna ask questions about solar.
Well,
And then I hope they come back out at the appropriate time to get those answers,
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Jim, I just want to acknowledge the work of Wayne and the Planning Commission, loud their effort on the plan of conservation development.
Thank you.
Steve Brock I appreciate that Steve Brock can be involved in the process almost from the start, and we are totally on board. So just kudos to that.
Thank you, Brian.
They're great.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Is there a motion adjourned?
I guess I'll have to make it.
Second,
So,
all in favor?
usual motion to the left. Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Wayne. Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Thank you,
Sorry
sir.
for getting